More on Apple Entertainment, Apple TV versus the Apple TV app, and some chat room feedback. This is MacVoices. This edition of MacVoices is supported by Headspace. Meditation made simple. Visit headspace.com/MacVoices for a free 1-month trial. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. This is part 2 in a MacVoices live discussion of Apple and entertainment, and how some of our panelists use Apple technology and Apple services for entertainment purposes, not just productivity purposes like we talk about so much. In this session, we dig in more to the Apple TV as both a device and as a service. And so we're going to go right back to the panel and get started.
I was going to shift the discussion a little bit. Ken Rea featured on Mac OS Ken, at the end of last week that apparently one of the Netflix co-founders was out there, saying that if Apple really wants to be a success in streaming, they need to double down and they need to be more aggressive in funding content, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And Ken's sort of comment was, well, that's all good and well for him to say, but is he being objective or is he colored by his Netflix experience? And I thought about that, and then a couple of days later, I think I saw, in my RSS feed, somebody else had commented about or cited that interview that the Netflix co-founder guy had done, and I was thinking that's on one hand, yes, he may be biased by his experience with Netflix, but I think he's indicating that really the bar is really quite high. And it's not just Netflix. He could have said the same thing about Amazon, except Amazon is being very aggressive in going out and creating and funding content. So Apple seems to be, in third place, in the battle between those three. Arguably, they might be a little more focused and concentrated. And, I think I'd say that, they might have a little bit higher production content than, some of the, there's all sorts of, really bland, stuff on either Amazon, Prime Video or on Netflix. But, it's a battle, a typical Apple, quantity versus quality type of battle. But, think about that, it seems that I don't see an end for the foreseeable future for this battle among all of these services. And I think they're all basically Appified. And to the extent they're Appified, I think that sort of nullifies the value of a device like the Apple TV.
See, I want to get to Kelly and Jeff, but I want to say this. I do think that there are two battles going on. One that doesn't seem to be talked about a lot, or that gets overlooked, and that is that the battle for the device is not necessarily about the box. I think it's more about directing the content. And the battle for the content is the battle for the content. Star Trek on CBS versus Star Wars on Disney versus, whatever on whatever. So I see two different battles going here. Kelly, you've been patiently chomping at the bit.
Trying so hard. I think part of what David said about the Apple TV being friendly, I feel like you're really close. I feel like the F word that goes there is familiar. It's very much like an iOS screen. There's tiles across it. You can install an app from the App Store, and that's how you put something on the screen. And when you put one thing on the screen, nothing else is happening. It's very It's a very familiar experience. So if somebody has an iPhone, they have an iPad, and you hand them an Apple TV, and don't hand them the remote. I'll get to that in a minute. But you give them an Apple TV to operate, it makes sense because, the little squares are apps. Each app does a different thing. I put the things on here that I want the end. Like Chuck said, to your point, I 100% agree with you. The battle for content has nothing to do with the thing, what you plug into the television. It doesn't matter. The content battle is happening whether you have a Fire Stick, whether you have a Roku, whether you have a 4K Roku, whatever device it is that's taken up space in one of those HDMI ports on the back of your television. CBS turning into Paramount Plus is happening outside of the hardware decision. And like the one interesting thing that Apple does that the other ones don't do is the TV app. Someday we'll do an episode just on Apple's brilliant naming conventions. And the TV app lets you go out to all those places and get all of those things if you have subscriptions. So like if you want to watch Stranger Things, if you want to watch The Mandalorian, if you want to watch The Expanse, it doesn't matter where it comes from. You go to the TV app and you go, I want to watch the next episode of The Expanse. And it goes, okay, here. And then you go, okay, that's done. That was cool. Now I want to watch WandaVision. And it goes and gets it, and it doesn't care. You don't have to care what service it's from. The TV app takes care of that for you. And for a lot of things, that's really nice. I feel like there's absolutely a place for the Apple TV, but not a place for the Apple TV that we have now. And I want to get to that, but I want to talk to Jeff about the TV app content situation, because I think that's a part that gets underrated some of the time.
Yeah, in our private chat, Jeff described himself as an Apple TV outlier. In what sense, Jeff?
Well, the feeling that I'm getting is that everyone, and I'm talking very generalized here, everyone is thinking, Apple TV as a device, its time has come and gone, and there are other ways that Apple can provide us with their content, and so maybe it's time to look at something else. Well, for me, the idea of the Apple TV device itself going away just is horrible. I have no interest in a smart TV at all, ever. I want a beautiful screen like I have today. I have an old Sony Bravia 32-inch television with an insanely beautiful screen still, and I plug in the one device that I need to be able to get all the content from every single service, and that's an Apple TV box, and it's great. So I just put on the apps for the services that I have, and I have a content nexus.
So, Jeff, how many other people like you are there out there? Because that's ultimately going to be guiding and directing what Apple ultimately does with their TV device.
Well, hopefully there's enough, but also keep in mind that unless Apple can get a deal with every single television maker, you don't have Apple TV on every single television. But if you can sell me a little box that I plug into my television, now I have Apple TV on every single television.
And this kind of fits into our discussion from a couple weeks ago about who's got what with your data. I would rather Apple knows what I'm watching on TV than pretty much anybody else, especially a TV manufacturer.
Yeah.
I don't want the TV manufacturer knowing. So, I hope that the Apple TV box doesn't go away. I worry that it's priced so high that it's like they're not even trying. It's like you just desperately, gotta, be like, I want an Apple TV. The only people that would buy it are people that are just,
Or on this panel.
One thing that I haven't seen mentioned anywhere about this particular aspect is, one group that all buys it is developers, because that's the only way you can watch WWDC talks live. Got to have it for that, unless you're going to watch them on your iPad. I don't know. Can these other like smart TVs, can you watch like lynda.com and stuff like that? I don't know if that,
I don't know.
I don't know that either, but I watch lynda.com on my Apple TV. It seems like the box, the thing is, there are things it can do that nothing else can do, but it's not a lot. And especially for, the general, if they're just going to watch TV shows, then they're not going to care. But I will, somebody was saying, their wife didn't, my wife turns on the Apple TV all the time. So no problem. We watch all kinds of stuff. In fact, all we do is press the menu button and the TV goes like, oh, okay, there's something on HDMI too. In fact, the hard part is getting it back to regular TV.
This wife watches everything on the Apple TV, and the way that I do it is that I have I know, I'm me. I have a Harmony remote, and the Harmony remote has an Echo skill. So I say, "Hey, lady, turn on the Apple TV," and she powers up the amp, puts it on the right input, hits the menu command to wake up the Apple TV, turns on the television, switches the television to the right input, and then sends it back to me like, "What do you want to do?" So I can either use the Apple remote, I can use my phone, I can use the Harmony remote that I have. Having to configure that will possibly, well, Jim, you spend a lot of time in Xcode, so for you it's probably awesome. But for anybody else, configuring it using Logitech software will possibly cause you to want to commit harm to yourself and or others. But once it's set up, it's a beautiful thing. And then you can tell the Echo to do whatever you want. I haven't quite figured out how to do it via HomeKit, but I can tell the A lady, turn on Apple TV. And also if I tell her it's Mando time, she will also dim the lights. So, because that's what happens when ridiculous people get a lot of free time and a lot of technology. So, but the thing about the Apple TV in particular, remote aside, I feel like Mark and David, this is a thing that you need to know, is that you should really accept the universal remote as your personal savior. The two things the Apple TV does right now that we have are the Resident Hub for HomeKit stuff. So that's one thing that you sort of get for free by having an Apple TV, is that it sort of holds all of that down for you. And it does gaming. And the reason that might matter is because as we get the next evolution of Apple TV, because right now it has to evolve, what we've got is too expensive. It doesn't have enough horsepower for what it does. It doesn't come in a stick flavor. So there's not something you can just poke in the side of the TV. You have to have like a power cord and an HDMI cable, and the whole thing has to live somewhere and take up space. And anybody who's ever used a Roku stick or a Fire TV stick will tell you, like, the stick is the way. There is none higher. And if you can just pop one of those in the side and call it good, and you're ready to rock and roll because all of the stuff that you subscribe to shows up on there, then it's a fantastic way to do what you want to do. And the game piece, I think, is going to get a lot bigger. And part of the reason we still have it, part of the reason Apple's funding Apple Arcade, part of the reason there are games, there's a game section in the App Store on the TV, on the Apple TV, even though it doesn't really seem to make any sense because there's not a lot that's fun there right now, is because Apple's working on the next thing, and that next thing is going to rely on an Apple TV, whatever next form it takes in its evolution. Once you throw enough magic candy at it, and it turns into the next thing, then it's going to end up being something that's going to be a good sidekick for the headset / glasses / other thing that Apple's going to give you to put on your face that's going to be amazing that we're all going to slobber over. So I think that piece needs to come, and I think that's why we've got some stagnation with the Apple TV that we have now. Why they couldn't drop $50 off of all of them, I don't know, because like I can get a 4K Roku for less than $50, and I can get a 4K Amazon Fire TV stick for $25, $35, something like that.
Yes.
Right. Yep.
The Roku stick fluctuates between like $45 and $50 generally. And the Amazon 4K is half that. And Apple's trying to tell me that it's like $170? $150?
Something like that.
It's
way too much.
For a 4K
Kelly, I have
cup,
a hypothesis.
I would like to hear it because I wonder if it's the same as mine.
Okay, so here's my hypothesis. The reason that we see Apple TV priced as it is today is because Apple is intentionally leaving it there for psychological impact. Here's what I mean by that. At some point, hopefully soon, we get new Apple TV models that come out and they have new features and more horsepower. Maybe there's a stick model as well, and the prices come down. And so Apple gives us this amazing new device that has all of these amazing new features, and they give us a substantial price cut at the same time. And now everyone looks at it assuming the PR works the way it's supposed to, and they say, holy crap, look at this amazing thing Apple made, and it costs so much less than the one we had before.
They should just reduce the price now.
I want that to be true, but it wouldn't hurt them to take $20 off of both of them. And
I
know on this, I agree with Jeff that if they're going to lower the price, why do it on an old, obsolete from a hardware perspective, box? Use that to really go out and get attention.
Oh, I know.
And Apple's done that before. I mean, I think
want them to. I
think that was their. Remember back in 2007 when they first launched the iPhone, and then they came back, about 6 or 10 weeks later and said, "Oh, and we're cutting the price," and everyone was pissed off that they cut the price, but they gave everybody $200 of credit to spend with Apple. That was calculated, because if you go back and if you listen to the June quarter conference call, they were talking about, they were having some promotion event coming up in the following quarter that would dramatically, cut into a margin. So, they were wink, wink, nod, nod. And what a better way to get attention and endear yourself to your target, customers by offering a huge price decrease. Now, Jeff, we'll have to see. Well, let's come back in a year. Let's mark this down and see if this actually comes to pass, and if not, the year after that. Because I think that could be a dramatic way that they could do it. Because until then, I agree with what Kelly and Jim were saying, that the current device is long in the tooth and overpriced, and this is not the first time that's happened. For the Apple TV.
And I can't even recommend it. Like, for being the Apple nerd I am, I can't even recommend it to anybody now anyway. Like, I want you to have the TV experience, but the way I'm going to tell you to do that is to go spend $50 I'm going to tell you to spend $50 on a Roku stick and put the TV app on it, and that's how you get it done. Because it's not worth it otherwise. And plus, like, the big things people want out of it, like Brittany, I know you mentioned, you have the 3rd gen Apple TV, like the pre-App Store Apple TV, and it's your AirPlay conduit. And there are a fair number of TVs now that will do AirPlay. There are TVs, privacy issues aside, there are TVs that do have the Apple TV app available. So if you want to bounce something off your TV off your phone to the TV real quick, there are TVs that will do that. Like, that was part of our conversation on TDO the other day, was Dave saying that they have a TV that has the TV app and AirPlay, and he doesn't need a box connected to it, because those are the two things that he uses. So
I would say
once is there.
I would say, going back to something Jim was saying about Apple TV, is before COVID-19 struck, and it was much more common, instead of using Zoom, that you go out and you would actually, meet, in a conference room, somewhere. The Apple TV, that was a perfect device for driving, the large screen TV. And everybody goes in and they just log in. If it's password controlled, no, Mark, here's the password, and boom, you're able to launch the video, this great presentation. So in that way, it's sort of supplemented or replaced the projectors that people used to have. But
I know people who traveled with it in case they ended up having to give a presentation in a room that only had a projector, and they were like, 1 second, plug in the Apple TV, AirPlay to it, and move on. Yeah, I know a lot of people that did that.
Yeah, but anyway, I mean, I guess I just want to close on the point, not to beat a dead horse, but it seems like the current device is clearly in need of being refreshed, and the only question is, does Apple bag it entirely, like they've done with other prior hardware products? Most recently, think about Airport Extreme or Airport base stations, or do they invest and carry it forward and make a state-of-the-art product?
Today's MacVoices is supported by Headspace. Headspace is meditation made simple. Wouldn't it be great if there were a pocket-sized guide that helped you sleep better, focus better, act better, be better? There is. And if you have 10 minutes, Headspace can change your life. Headspace's approach to mindfulness can reduce stress, improve sleep, and increase your overall sense of well-being. Backed by 25 published studies on its benefits, Headspace can help you build a life-changing meditation practice with mindfulness that works for you on your schedule, anytime, anywhere. From wind-down sessions to help you fall asleep, to 3-minute SOS meditations that can help you when you feel overwhelmed, Headspace has a meditation that can address what has you stressed out. I like the fact that Headspace starts by asking what I want to accomplish, what I want to address, rather than just applying a "this is good for you, do it" approach to selecting a meditation. That personalization makes it easy to get started and stick with Headspace. You deserve to feel happier, and Headspace is meditation made simple. Go to headspace.com/MacVoices. That's headspace.com/MacVoices for a free 1-month trial with access to Headspace's full library of meditations for every situation. That's the best deal offered right now, so head over to headspace.com/MacVoices today. Thanks to Headspace for their support of MacVoices.
I have a question about Apple TV and gaming.
Mhm.
As probably the only person here that's actually using Apple Arcade. Can you do Apple Arcade on a smart TV that has Apple TV support?
That's a good question.
I don't think so.
So- All right.
No.
Well, then you can't get rid of an Apple TV product.
It's not going away.
But see, Jeff, I think you bring up a good point, and I expand on it a little bit. The idea that Apple controls that widget. I mean, it can control the app on the Apple TV app on other people's TVs, but if you've got that hardware device, it still gives you all kind of options to add things. Apple Arcade may be one of them. You may have just identified one that can't be had any other way. So, just to circle back for a minute, your point about the TV, the Apple TV pricing. Yeah, there's no point. If anything, dropping the price now would just signal that something new is coming out. So I'm with you. Hold it where it is until you're ready, and then kill it either with a new device that is just so amazing it can hold the price, or drop the price and have all the new stuff. I do want to say. Go ahead, Mark. Well, I want to get in the chat room. Brian in the chat room says, I most use my Xbox to watch programming from the streaming platforms. Mm-hmm. I love Apple TV Plus, but don't own a physical Apple TV device. I watch Apple TV Plus on Xbox, Fire Sticks, and iPad. Craig says, I use Apple TV on one TV and Fire Stick on another, and usually Comcast on the third TV. I have all the devices, Apple TV, Roku, Fire Stick, and Cube. Way to go, Craig. Yes, I do want a new Apple TV now. I'm waiting. Yeah, aren't we all? So, I'm sorry, Mark, go ahead. Or did I blow your thought? Sorry.
Yeah, you may have blown it out, but I know what it was. I was thinking, when would a logical update be? And certainly Apple's gotten very adept at having video conference based releases. So who knows? They might do something like that. But absent that, it seems like the next logical thing might be June at WWDC, because that was last year, right, when they introduced they were doing Foundation. So that might be a logical sort of update point for them.
I thought it was March. I thought it was last March when we got the Showtime event. Or wait, I think it was the Showtime event when they mentioned Foundation, but I could be wrong about that.
You may be right. I seem to remember. For whatever reason, I thought it was June, but it could have been earlier. But,
well, what I'm hoping,
but still, the show's not here.
Oh no, I know. Well, they're working on it. They got a little waylaid.
It was a pandemic.
Well, if you're wondering why, look behind you, Mark.
Yeah, I'm not criticizing them. I understand.
What I hope is that we get a new event, that we get an event in March. We have gotten events in March in the past for iPads. And we used to get them, I think, Jeff, I was on a podcast with you and came up with the term Malladay for all of the malls that are closed on Easter. And Apple
forgot about that.
And Apple kept releasing Good Friday, the Friday before Easter is when the new iPad comes out. And so you can get one Friday, you can get one Saturday, but everything's closed on Sunday, so you can't get one. And that's when Apple decides the new stuff needs to happen. So I'm hoping there's a March event. I have a whole separate story about why I really want there to be a new one. But I would like if we got the new iPad Pro, because the new iPad Air, like unless you need LiDAR, the iPad Air is what you want in life right now. Everyone wants one. I don't care who you are. And so I'd like to see what they're going to do next with the iPad Pro. So I'd like the iPad Pro to get its own event, and maybe we get the TV and the iteration of AirPods we've heard so much rumbling about. And like those three things would be a solid video event that we're all invited to.
Brittany, you brought up something in the chat room. I'll let you ask it. And because Jeff answered it, I have my own answer. But so go right ahead.
Oh, I was just curious for many people who do not see a problem with just using the features built into their TV, like the members of my household who have outvoted me. What features could the Apple TV possibly have to justify the current price point that they might be reserving?
It serves beer and coffee in the morning.
Straight to my door, I'm in.
I'll take two.
There, Jeff, you had a response, and then I'll have mine too.
All right. So my response is kick it up a notch with Apple TV as a gaming console, and make it more powerful for gaming. And now you start getting higher end games that you see on like PlayStation and Xbox. Now they'll be available for Apple TV, and make Apple TV so that it is a VR device as well. So now you just get, in this case, probably Apple's VR headset and sensor gear, and it just automatically syncs up with your Apple TV, and now you're doing VR gaming.
And my point, I guess, would be this may not be a popular point, but they didn't do much in the way of price reduction on the Mac Pro all those years that it didn't get updated. They just held the line. That's sort of their philosophy, that, okay, this is the cost of this, and we don't drop prices. We don't play that game. Is that right or wrong? I don't know, but that seems to be, for the most part, Apple's modus operandi. So,
yes. But unless, Jeff is right and it will sway actual gamers, which I would also be slightly dubious about Apple being able to do, just hasn't historically been their strength. But unless they're able to do something like that, at the moment, it's supposed to be a conduit for entertainment, and increasingly your TV can already do that. And access those things, or you have discovered another way, while it has been this thing that was ridiculously in the price limbo. Whereas eventually they're gonna make a Mac Pro that is a current computer that is still a hole in their lineup, and it still had a use case. And I'm a little bit worried that time will make at least the current Apple TV use case obsolete.
I go back to my earlier point, though, Brittany. I don't know that it's going to be made obsolete because of that second battle. It's Apple is controlling the experience, and whether you like that control or not, I mean, there are things about it that I like better than the Amazon or the Roku. There are things that I don't like. I mean, frankly, I'm not a big fan of the Roku. Period. I prefer the Amazon over that. The Apple TV. The two of them kind of go back and forth. So, but I think there's this battle for directing you to the programming more than having the programming itself.
Yeah, and the only problem with that, and this is just purely from like a speculation angle, is there were lots of people who would have still been very interested in the controlling the whole widget of our Wi-Fi.
Yeah, but that felt like a little bit different angle. I mean, I think they were.
The only reason they might stay here is just their interest in their own services, and increasingly services tend to drive them, and they may keep it there just to give sway to the services angle. But I don't know.
Well, and who's to say they wouldn't get back in the Wi-Fi game at some point if they could find a big enough, good enough differentiator. I mean, but that was one of those things that seemed to be a place where money was being sunk into and was going to have to continue to be sunk into it because of security and
Yes.
technology advances, but also security. And at some point, it's like, okay, this is something that is best left for the heavy duty security people. Maybe in hindsight, they regret not staying there because privacy has become such a big thing. But I just, there's something about Apple wanting to control the entire experience from the time you pick up that remote or choose to watch program X to when it actually, program X starts on your screen. That just screams, I want the hardware box there as an option.
So if I interject here, this idea about an Apple and some sort of airport device relative to privacy is, I was thinking earlier before when Jeff was saying that all he wants is basically a panel that he can plug his Apple TV into. The challenge with a lot of the smart devices, smart TVs out there is they're all infested and they're all sending everything. They're phoning home on everything you watch and when. And there are companies that are in the ad tracking enablement business that tend to face towards companies who want to buy and place ads. Its trading symbol is a 3-letter acronym. It reports earnings 2 days later this week. So it's been a gigantic rocket. I'm not going to say anything else about it except I know I've mentioned it once before, Chuck, on one of your shows. And for them, one of their growth areas, they're talking about smart TVs, because in the past what they've done is they've sort of agglomerated data together. So if you're watching or browsing on a phone or a tablet, at home or at Starbucks or at your office and vice versa, and you buy at the office or you buy at home, they can pull all of this stuff together and then present ads to you. So for them, a growth area is home TVs. They want to figure out, what are you watching? So should we present, what sort of ad should we present? Should it be, medicine for old people, or should it be Pelotons? And that's, that's the nature of the world that we're going into. So it would not be, unimaginable to imagine, if Apple had some sort of repurpose, whether it's the Apple TV with networking capability or some sort of other device, where they would provide network security functions and just block a lot of this crap reporting of intelligence back to one or multiple sources. Now, is there a business case for that? I don't know. Is there something I would like? Yeah, certainly I would, because as I was saying a couple of weeks ago when we had the discussion about your data, I don't object at all to how companies use your data. For me, it's about personal liberty, and you should know if you're being tracked and if you're funneling your data into somebody else. And unfortunately, right now, smart TVs that's another focus area where stuff is being slurped up and distributed. So we can only dream what Apple might do in that space, but I tend to think that they're not. I don't think they'll make a play in that area. They seem to be on this track of whatever their VR, AR device is, a car behind that, and continuing to be on this battle for controlling the app and experience. And increasingly, that's becoming part of understanding what privacy implications are and how much apps slurp out of your phone or other device and send up to the creator of the app.
Yeah. So a point, and we're out of time, so we're going to go around the table and plug ourselves. But 2 more comments from the YouTube chat room, and this is one we haven't even touched on. But Craig says, for sports, Apple TV, you can watch 4 screens at once on ESPN. Great for things like college football and even multi-sports. Select one of the 4, and you can pop it out too. And then Brian agreed with Craig and says, I do the same thing on the ESPN app on Xbox as well. Great feature. So, there you go.
So are they saying that's an Apple TV box feature that isn't on other things?
Well, Craig indicates that it's on the ESPN app on Apple TV. Brian says that the same thing is on the ESPN app on Xbox. I don't know because I haven't done it.
It's the ESPN app lets you do that. So
that's sort of the thing about Apple TV is it has apps, which is a different thing than a channel. So, Apple hasn't done that much about, when it came out, when the Apple TV 4 came out, they kind of made a big deal about apps, and they kind of tried to get developers to develop apps. And then they seem to have just sort of wandered off and forgotten about that. And they put a lot of emphasis on this Apple TV app, but that's just their app. When, it seems like what differentiates the box, the Apple TV box, is that it can run third-party apps, and all these other solutions don't. So, does Apple, see the value in that still? If they do, then that's what the Apple TV box is for.
Well, there's something to be said for the ecosystem, because the ESPN app is similar if you watch on an iPad to what you get when you do it on the TV. And MLB at bat, from people I know, who use that. I don't watch a lot of baseball, but it's a similar experience. So, and I know that part of that comes down to that the OS is in essence the same. It's still like tvOS starts life as iOS, and then they add some other pieces to it in order to turn it into tvOS. So I think that makes a difference as well. And part of that, so I think part of it is the ecosystem, and it comes back again to owning the experience. Apple can make it very easy for there to be a TV app for your video streaming service that looks exactly like what it looks like on the iPad, because it's almost all the same code. And that makes it very easy for people who go, gosh, I really like watching all this TV on my iPad. Wouldn't you like to watch it on your television? Ooh, and now you can, and it looks very similar. And it's very easy for a developer to do that, for somebody like ESPN to go, yeah, you can do this in our app. And I don't know if it's monumentally harder on the other side, but ESPN is a company that can throw enough developer resources at it to make sure that experience is the same across everything. And not everyone who does it can. And I feel like there's a huge difference between an app and a channel. And I like how Roku does it. And I like that it's very easy to get the stuff on Roku that you can get, but it's a different experience. I'm not going to say it's better or worse, because depending who you are and like what your current viewing situation is, that's not, it's different for everybody. So that might be the answer for you. My dad has a Roku stick and loves it. And he bought it because I bought him a Roku box when he decided to cancel cable. And he uses the Roku box all the time, and bought a Roku stick for another television. And now that's the one he uses the most and thinks it's fantastic. So I think there's something to be said for it. And I think, like I said before, I think there's a place for the Apple TV in Apple's product offering, for lack of a better term, going forward. I think there's absolutely a place for it, but I don't think it's the place it has currently occupied. I think it's going to evolve as Apple continues to evolve, and we get different stuff from them, and things need to be able to work together. And I think when we get that, it'll be the same sort of thing we've talked about before. Like, what Apple's doing right now doesn't make any sense. And then if we look back on now from 2024, when we're all doing this in person, then we can come back and go, well, now, of course, standing here and looking back at 2021, now all of this makes sense.
And Kelly, that's where I want to wrap, and because I agree with that completely. Too often we pass judgment based on what we have in front of us right at the moment, and we don't have the foresight to say, hey, they could do that, and that would make perfect sense. And then they bring it out, and like all of a sudden, yeah, that made perfect sense. We just didn't have the complete picture. So,
yeah.
Guys, it's been fun. Thank you. Thank you for indulging me a little bit in shifting the focus away from what we typically do. But I think it's a good discussion, and definitely positioning Apple for the future. It's very interesting. So let's go around the room and let everybody get out of here with a little note about where folks can find you. And I'm going to reverse it this time, but my screen has gotten completely confused with people jumping in and out, getting power back, taking phone calls. So Kelly, you're up first this time. Where can we find you?
You can find me weekdays on the Mac Observer Daily Observations podcast. I'm there 5 days a week talking about current Mac issues and news of the day and whatever topics we feel like, including Security Friday, where we talk about the different data breaches, what Facebook is currently doing with your data, and also a practical tip so that you can keep your stuff safe. You can also find me over at the Incomparable Network, where I am headed almost as soon as we are done here, because I'm going to record a new episode of Maximoff Overdrive, which is the podcast we started up about WandaVision. And the rest of the time, you can find me on Twitter as Verso or over at the After Show that I host with Mike Rose.
Great. Thanks for being here, Kelly. Appreciate it. I hope you get your normal office back soon.
Me too.
Jim Rea, fully powered and ready to go and warm again even. Where can folks find you?
For work, you can find me at provue.com, PROVUE.com. And then I'm on Twitter at ProVueJim, same weird spelling, on Twitter.
Great. Thanks for being here. Thanks for the extra effort, too, especially at the first part of the show to be here. Appreciate it.
It's completely dark outside now, so I don't know what would have happened if the power hadn't come back.
Well, we just had the glow of the iPad illuminating your face. Brittany, it's great to have you. Thank you for being here. Where can folks find you?
Thanks for having me. On Twitter, I'm the ADD Liberator. It's just ADD Liberator. And actually, this week, as we're speaking right now, I'm on the latest episode of Productivity in Tech, the Pitt Show. And I felt like we had a really good conversation there, especially about ADHD. And if you're interested in my productivity stuff, it is at conquer.consulting.
Great. Thanks so much. Glad you're part of the team here.
Thank you.
Mr. Fuccio, when you're not throwing beads at the Mardi Gras, or maybe catching them, I'm not sure. Anyway, where can folks find you?
Short and sweet, Twitter at MarkFuccio, at Mark Fuccio on Twitter, or Mark Fuccio on LinkedIn. Great.
Thanks for being here, Mark. Mr. Gamet, I didn't forget you this time around. But you forgot it was Tuesday, so.
It's true. Seriously. Absolutely true. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram. I'm Jay Gamet both places. I get around. I'm here. I'm here a lot now, which is a lot of fun.
We like it.
Yeah, I was on macOS Ken last week, and there's something coming up soon, and I forgot what it. Google me. I'm easy to find.
Great. Call Jeff's agent. He can tell you where Jeff will be at any given moment.
Which is good, because apparently I can't.
Thanks for being here, Jeff. Yeah, Jeff has people. Yeah. David Ginsburg, thank you for showing up as always. Where can folks find you?
Happy always to be here. You can find me at In Touch with iOS at intouchwithios.com. Chuck, you'll be on the show this week. I'm looking forward to that. And of course, you find me here, British Tech Network. I'm on the Mac Show most weeks. Also on Mac to the Future live cast on Facebook with Guy Searle and Warren Sklar. And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram, DaveG65. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Folks, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is Mac Voices. Join us next Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We do this again, Mac Voices Live, both on YouTube and on Facebook. We'd love to have you in the chat room join us. And I want to once again say thank you so much to the folks in the chat room for contributing, for hanging out with us. It's always a blast. We look forward to seeing you back here next week, too. Until then, and as always, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with Mac Voices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices.
Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.